Chop off the head. That does not look good. What's going on, everybody? Let me make certain I got all my settings, all my other stuff, because I've had all kinds of problems, delays, gremlins, all other kinds of stuff every time I try to do this. So hopefully we got everything set up. Hopefully I don't have any delays. Make certain I get it all. Oh, delay, no delay. Is there a delay? No. No delays. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. It's your boy Bunny 3000 trying to hold down the fort. As you can see over in the corner, Dirty Helmato is not here. He's not here right now. He said he's gonna be late. Of course. Everybody on CP time. Bunny's on point. Might have to get this best in audio shows. Yeah, I hear you, Acid Rain. They're best in audio only. Usually we try to do it where we have like gameplay in the middle or something going on so you guys can watch more than talking heads. But unfortunately, I got like slapped on the ass for doing that because I was labeling it as a talk show and then I had gameplay, so they were like, you can't do that. No gameplay in the gaming talk show. I was like, fine. No gameplay in the gaming talk show. So I don't do that anymore. Only thing is, every once in a while we'll do like a Geekswagg plays where we'll actually just play the game and try to chat over it. But of course that never works. It always ends up being commentary rather than us actually talking about topics. So I don't know. I'll figure out how to manage that at another time. Yes, Shriv is yes, this is definitely a different talk show. This show itself is Geekswagg. We are affiliated with a magazine called Heed magazine, HEED. So it's me, my co-host, which is not here right now, as you see in the corner, Dirty Helmet, and another co-host of mine named Makita Dejeuner, who is called the Grim Freaker. And you know, we do what we do. We try to add a little bit of different flavor to the whole Ladies of the Round Table lineup. I don't know. We'll see whether this spawns something else. I've been trying to talk with Shriv to see if I can possibly get something else going on here on the channel, but that's for another date. I'm trying to get my podcast lungs stronger, so I'm trying to learn how to do this better, how to do this a little bit more professional. It's not working out too well, but you know, practice makes perfect, or practicing the same imperfections just makes you worse. Don't know which, but we're gonna figure it out together. Anyways, so since we're here, since we're talking, I did want to bring up the elephants in the room, which are two things that have been on the minds of a lot of geeks and gamers. For some people, it has been the bad critical reviews of the game No Man's Sky. And for a lot of the comic book and movie geeks out there, the other big elephant in the room has been Suicide Squad. Both have taken a pounding from critics, especially, and I guess you could probably say, in my opinion, the criticism is justified. It's not necessarily something that is for everybody, but what is clear about both things is that it kind of appeals to, I want to say, a small niche of people. Unfortunately, DC and their whole movie cinematic universe, they aren't off to a really good start. They have really done a bad job of setting up storylines and everything. So while I'm talking about it, I guess I'll just say it out loud. I'm talking Suicide Squad right now. And I will say this, spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen Suicide Squad, you might want to, you know, put me on mute, pause, or come back maybe in 30 minutes. Because I will be discussing plot points and everything for Suicide Squad. So, in 3, 2, 1, Suicide Squad. All right. So, Suicide Squad, I mean, for those of you who have heard it, they have a host of villains that are basically supposed to be a black ops squad that the government is using in order to counter a lot of the superhero stuff. So the whole premise, I guess you could say, in the comic book is this squad is supposed to be anti-heroes. They're supposed to do all the dirty work. They do a lot of cursing, killing, a whole bunch of other stuff, which a lot of the superhero teams don't do, right? Amanda Waller, who is like the governmental head of Suicide Squad, decides that this is her counterpunch to Avengers, who will not be tied down to any government body. They have no oversight. So in order to counter that, I'm sorry, not the Avengers. I said the Avengers. I meant Justice League. Sorry. Their counterpunch to Justice League, since Justice League is for themselves, they decided, hey, we need some team that represents American interests. So she pulls together a bunch of villains and decides these villains are going to do our dirty work, kind of like a special ops Navy SEAL team, and they're going to do the things that Justice League can't or won't do, and for us, which is fine. Great storyline. You've got Harley Quinn, you've got Deadshot. Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, does a great job. Will Smith plays Deadshot, and I guess he does a good job. He basically plays the whole Will Smith role. He does what Will Smith does. Jared Leto plays the Joker, who is not a part of the Suicide Squad, but because Harley Quinn is a part of the squad, he's regularly involved in some of their dealings and so forth. Then what is it? Captain Boomerang. You've got El Diablo. I don't remember who all plays all these other guys. Killer Croc, and I think there's like one other guy, some other dude, right? Some other nondescript dude that nobody really cares about. But of course, the focus of the story. Oh, the Enchantress. I'm sorry. And the focus of the story, when you first look at it, you would imagine, say, oh, Will Smith. He's the head. He's the one that's going to be focused on. Margot Robbie, because she's not as well known as Will Smith, but still well known enough. Dead storyline focus on her, right? But of course, you've got to focus on some of the other heroes. Now, off top, I will say, I thought the portrayals of each of these characters were good. I have no problems with the actors and actresses that they chose to portray each one of these characters. I think Viola Davis did a fantastic job of doing Waller. I think Will Smith was Will Smith, which is neither good nor bad for Deadshot. I mean, it's Deadshot. I think Margot Robbie did a great job as Harley Quinn, But the problem that I had with this movie, in a sense, was the plot a bit. The plot didn't really... The plot gave me pause, okay? Because let me see real quick who it was that played the Enchantress, because I want to give her props as well. I can't pronounce your last name, lady. Cara Delevingne. Yeah. And then there was Jai Courtney, who played Captain Boomerang. I'm sorry, I even forgot another character that wasn't even a villain but was a part of the team. Katana. She's like the Japanese Batman. She's got a sword that steals souls that she got from her dead husband. And what was the other guy? Jay Hernandez played. I love Jay Hernandez. He's great. He played El Diablo, and then you've got who else was it? Whatever. But you've got Enchantress. Then you've got Joel Kinnaman. I love Joel Kinnaman in this movie. He did a great job. One of the things I remember him from was The Killing. If any of you guys know or have seen the TV show The Killing, then you know Joel Kinnaman. He did a great job in that show, and he does a great job in this movie. So BJ, why is it that you like all of these actors and actresses in this movie, yet you didn't quite like the movie? The problem number one that I have with the plot line is you've got the Enchantress who goes rogue and starts this massive assault upon a city, a major city, right? That can clearly be seen from miles around. Okay, number one, when you see something that redonkulous in the center of a city, a superhero from someplace is going to respond to that. Okay, now I know Superman isn't going to respond because he's 6 feet underground, but hey, the Flash, somebody in this universe that's a superhero is going to respond to this. Okay, that's my opinion, but none of them do. Okay, so instead, because the Enchantress is a part of this, I guess they say, hey, we need to take care of this ourselves. Let's send in the Suicide Squad. So the Suicide Squad goes in, and they're supposed to be a Black Ops team. Well, of course, you're sending a Black Ops team into one of the biggest, one of the biggest crazy looking magic show kind of deals. I heard some people say that it reminded them of the Ghostbusters setup. How you got this big portal or whatever right in the middle of the city. I don't even know what that dang machine was supposed to do, but the graphics made it look like it was the same little Ghostbusters portal now, didn't it? But that's another story. So yeah, they send in some soldiers, and they send in the Suicide Squad. Fine, no superheroes respond. They send in Suicide Squad. And, that kind of threw me for a loop, right? So I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. They feel like they have to be the ones to respond since Enchantress is the one that goes rogue and they don't want anyone else to kill her. Okay, fine. I can handle that. But as I was saying, with each one of these characters and everything, the whole point is you're supposed to use this movie to kind of introduce all of these characters into the universe, right? So this is a good cast. It's a fantastic cast, but I feel like the Suicide Squad movie was set up to counter, Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Of Marvel. But the thing with Marvel was they had a number of other movies beforehand that fleshed out a lot of different characters, and set up the universe and set up a side story that was supposed to tie into Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And of course, Guardians of the Galaxy had the advantage of most people not knowing or caring about a great majority of the characters. So they could do very little backstory and make it work. Unfortunately, DC, you can't quite do that with this cast. Not cast, with these characters. Some of these characters are beloved and well known. And of course, I'm talking about Harley Quinn and the Joker, right? Harley Quinn is probably the top cosplayed character, or at least one of the top cosplayed characters in any and every Comic-Con that you go to, right? And then of course you've got the Joker. When you've got those two major characters in a movie, you better do it right and you better do it well. Now, with Margot Robbie's character, the problem I had with the way Harley Quinn was portrayed in this movie was I felt that the storyline spent so much time telling us that Harley Quinn was crazy and not showing us that she was crazy. You know, I mean, she did some stuff and said some stuff that was kind of funny here and there, but in my mind, Harley Quinn is constantly talking and saying just odd and weird stuff in moments when the rest of the team doesn't want her to. Right? She's annoying. She does and says stuff that is annoying throughout. Instead, they kind of highlighted her ass and had her be the comic relief, which is kind of what she is in regular storylines. She does have the comic relief aspect to her, but in that comic relief, they're also supposed to show how off and crazy she is. But I felt like too many times they just had a different character look at her and say she's crazy, and then another character like 5 minutes later, she's crazy, and it's like, oh, you're talking about crazy, and then everybody looks over to her. I'm like, okay, stop telling me that she's crazy and let's have a moment when she's actually acting crazy, where she just does something off, And I think that was a part of the problem that they had in showing her backstory with the Joker, because that relationship is so powerful and so interesting, especially in the comic books, that you could make a whole movie of that, and they only spent like a few scenes showing that relationship. And it was like the whole time you're watching that movie, all I could sit here and think was, I want to see more of that. And from what I understand, they actually filmed more. So Jared Leto and Margot Robbie were doing more scenes, more things, all kinds of stuff. But because they shot so much of it, they had to cut a lot of those scenes out. And, at this point, it's kind of questionable as to whether or not they'll release all of it. I mean, I guess they'll do it just like they did Batman vs Superman, but you shouldn't have to do that. You know what I mean? Say, hey, all the really good stuff is going to be on DVD. It doesn't make any sense. So, of course, you got Jared Leto, who's all pissed off now because he's like, yo, I put so much time and work into this character. And honestly, me personally, I know a lot of people rag on Jared Leto and say he's the worst Joker, but I will say this. Even though he is the worst Joker, I think he still set up the atmosphere of the Joker well. What was missing from everything that we saw in this movie was the real crazy aspect of the Joker, as well as the quotables. There was not one line or one scene in this movie that showed the Joker in a light where you were like, oh, he's so extremely dastardly, aside from him driving, into the water and leaving Harley Quinn in the car. I mean, that was the one time. And maybe, him, well, not maybe. And also when they were in the club and he was basically like, here, Common, you can have her. This is my girl. You can have her. You know what I mean? I mean, that did kind of show that he was off, but you're looking for more. When it comes to the Joker, you're looking for spectacular. You're looking for a showman. You're looking for someone that just mentally has no equal, and for them to show the scene where, Harley Quinn and the Joker are in the mental hospital and all he does is say, can I have a machine gun? I mean, that to take that scene and say that, hey, Harley Quinn eventually fell in love with him and he drove her crazy or something like that. You know what I mean? And the way he drove her crazy was by using the magnets on her head, and that unlocked the crazy or whatever, right? I'm like, come on, man. You need something more dastardly than that. You need something that you're just like, oh, that you want something to grab hold to and just say, this is his Joker. Maybe some of that was actually in those scenes that they cut, but we just didn't see it. I mean, think about it. When you got Jack Nicholson. With his Joker, it was like every other line was something you could quote. You know, it was the way he pulled off the Joker. You know, he had the laugh, he had the mystique, you know, he was a showman. Is the way they wrote him into that Batman movie was perfect, right? And Jack Nicholson played it to a T. And then Heath Ledger, I mean, he played the other side, you know, the sociopath side of the Joker. And that was perfect. You know, they gave him plenty of time to explore it. They showed his relationship with Batman and how he wanted Batman to be him and how close Batman was to becoming him. And it's like, because I mean, I love the Joker. I love the Joker's character. So it's, you know, it's one of those things where I was like, those are two different portrayals of the Joker, but they were equally amazing, right? And then of course you get the Jared Leto, and it was like after I finished watching this movie, the only thing I could think of or remember about Jared Leto doing this character was his teeth and him growling. You know, that was like it. It was like him purring or growling like you know, that was him being creepy. And then, you know, he kind of had the laugh. He has his own little creepy laugh. It kind of worked for me. But I was waiting for Jared Leto to knock me out of my seat so I could say, yes, that's the Joker. And it never happened. And I think that's why Jared Leto is pissed off. And if I was him, I'd be pissed off too, because it sounded like from all the pump up that they had been giving us in all these interviews and articles, that Jared Leto was in character, sending all kinds of crazy gifts to the cast. The cast would always come on to the set just to watch him work and all this other kind of stuff. I was ready to be blown away, and I wasn't. And I think that's why people are upset. I mean, the Joker is a beloved character. You can't mess up the Joker, right? And so that puts a big, huge question mark on the next Batman movie, you know. And don't get me started on Ben Affleck. I'm sorry, I'm not an Affleck fan, and I know there's a lot of people that love his portrayal of Batman, but I'm just not an Affleck fan. And I mean, I have not been impressed by his portrayal of Batman and what he does for it or whatever, aside from the fact that he doesn't need stilts in his boots and that he doesn't use voice changer to change his voice. I mean, I'm sorry, it's just not my thing. That's my opinion of the whole Batman thing. So you've got those two major characters in Suicide Squad and those two big question marks. You were just waiting for them to do the memorable or be the memorable or say the memorable thing in the movie, and it just didn't happen for me. You know, I know some people were like, oh yeah, she is Harley Quinn and she's Harley Quinn. I agree, but the movie just didn't do her justice. You know, same thing for Jared Leto. The movie just did not do him justice. Deadshot. I don't know much about Deadshot. You know, I don't know if he's a jokester, prankster. I don't know if in the comic books he's got a kid and that's the real reason that they have hold or sway of him. Don't know. Honestly, don't particularly care. Will Smith was there. He held up like the emotional part of the movie. You know, so I was like, okay, that's there. That's good. You know, he can be, you know, the actual good comedy portion of the movie. That worked out. Put that to the side, right? The Enchantress. I've heard so much mixed about her. I heard some people loved her, some people hated. Actually, I haven't really heard anybody say that they loved her. I'll take it back. I saw an article that said that they liked the Enchantress. And then I saw some other articles that said that they absolutely hated the Enchantress, mostly because they didn't like the special effects for her. I thought just the opposite. I was like, yo, the Enchantress and the way they portrayed her in the movie was the thing that grounded the drama in the movie, because she looked like something out of The Ring, you know, or what was that other movie, The Grudge or something like that. So I was like, she was the heavy you know, evil in the movie. And I thought that that portrayal or the visual of her as the Enchantress before she got all, you know, glorified or whatever at the end of the movie, that visual worked perfect for the character. Of course, that's me not knowing anything about the comic book character, you know? So I was like, perfect. She knows black magic. She's magic. She's powerful. Da, 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 da. Boom. Perfect. Love it. I thought that was good. I thought that added the drama. I thought that made people interested because she was creepy looking. So, you know, and the thing that got it for me was Kara had to be two different people in that movie. She had to be the doctor or the archaeologist or whatever that was in love with Joel Kinnaman's character. You know, and that's, I guess you could say, relatively easy to play because she's tired, she's dominated by the Enchantress, she's scared, all this other kind of stuff. You know, any decent actress, in my opinion, can pull that off for the most part, right? And she did that. I thought that was good. But on the flip side, you've got the Enchantress that doesn't really say or do much. And, well, I won't say that. The Enchantress with the dominating voice. I guess her voice was kind of I wanted it to be a little more creepy when she was talking or speaking. She did that part okay, but what I thought she did well was the physical aspect of her acting for the Enchantress. When she was the Enchantress, she moved creepy. You know, she got into the special effects, she got into the makeup that made up the Enchantress and the look of the Enchantress. I thought she played that to a T. I thought she was perfect. Loved it. So I was like, big ups to her. You know, so that part of it is good because that's like the villain, you know, or whatever. And you need a good villain. And I thought that kind of helped the movie go along. Right? Captain Boomerang. I mean, he was there. He was in the movie. I mean, he's basically there simply because he's there in the comic book. I mean, honestly, a part of me is kind of saying why they even have him in the comic book. I don't know the dynamics of the Suicide Squad team, but how useful or how good is this guy aside from one-liners here and there? And from some of the comic books I've read, that's basically what he does, just one-liners here and there, you know? Yeah, I mean, he did that in the movie. But the one character that I thought did the perfect portrayal of her character and like carried, well, I won't say carried the movie, but helped carry the movie was Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. I thought her role in this movie was powerful. I thought it was great. She like got rid of all emotion in every single line she delivered. Every single line, you could look Viola Davis in the eye, and she had the look of, you know, that look that your mom gives you when you know you're in trouble and you said and did something and you just got caught. All emotion gone. She's just angry and eyeballing you, and you're like, oh snap, I'm in trouble. You know, that's the look that Viola nailed for the whole entire movie. So it was like anytime you looked at her, it was like there was no emotional response except for, you know, evil. You know, I don't want to necessarily say evil. I mean, that's the way they kind of wanted her to be. But in a sense, that's kind of what she was pulling off. You know, not necessarily corrupt, but the corrupting or the disillusioned government official or agent that is so into patriotism and that they will do anything for their country, even if it's morally unjust or morally off. You know, that kind of government agent. She played that to a T. I loved it. You could just like Harley Quinn, you could do a movie just of Amanda Waller. She nailed it. She did it. Karen Fukuhara, she plays Katana. And again, I didn't know anything about this character. And I mean, it's hard for me to say that she nailed the character because, I mean, she didn't really say or do much except for wield the katana and slice people. So, I mean, I'm just glad that, they, uh, that it was what it was, right? Adewale Akinoye Jabi, yay. I can't pronounce his name. He was Killer Croc. I'm certain you've seen him in a great many other movies. He was Killer Croc. He was imposing. He had all the makeup on. He did what he had to do. The one thing I did not like was at the end of the movie, they ask every single one of the Suicide Squad what it is that they really want, and he says BET. I'm like, really? I mean, we could kind of tell he was black because of the way he was responding and stuff to some of the other characters. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't know he was black. But then all of a sudden for him to just say, I want BET, I mean, that, in my mind, and I'm certain for a lot of, I don't want to say people of color, but a lot of black people, everybody was sitting there looking at the screen like, what? Really? Do we need to be that cliche to let them know that he's black? I mean, he's Killer Croc. They treated him like a, animal or whatever, and he wanted to be like an animal because he asked to be in the sewer. So, I mean, I don't know, surprise us, do something else. But all he said he wanted was BET. I was like, come on, man, that's whatever. I don't know. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know if I should have, but for some reason it did. I think it rubbed some other people the wrong way too. Ben Affleck, Batman, he was in there. Moving on. Jay Hernandez as El Diablo. I thought that El Diablo had a much larger role than I thought than he was really going to have in that movie. It worked out really well. I liked the character. He seemed intriguing, especially with him perfecting his powers and becoming Avatar or whatever it was you wanted to come. Not the blue Avatar, but a different being. He became a larger being made of flames or whatever that actually fought the Enchantress's brother. And I thought that was interesting. That made you want to know more about that character, and you actually liked that character because he had restraint for his powers. He had remorse for the things he had done. They went into his backstory. His backstory pulled at your emotions. I was like, they did the best job for the most part for most of those characters with him than they did for everybody else. Adam Beach got his head blown off. He was the guy that I don't even remember what his name was in the movie, but he was one of the villains that got his head blown off by Waller. That's basically why he was in there. Ike Barinholtz, he was hilarious in this movie. He was the prison guard inside Suicide Squad. I absolutely loved him in this movie. He was funny. That's all I know his name was. Griggs. They said his name was Griggs or whatever, but he was hilarious in this movie. I think he was funnier than Will Smith was in this movie. I'm not saying that's saying a whole lot, but still. I mean, that's his job. He's a comedian. He plays in a lot of other comedies anyways. So, I mean, for the most part, let's see who else was in there that was good. A couple of other people that it really isn't that important, but I mean, like I said before, Suicide Squad. When it was announced and they showed me the cast, I was hyped for it. When I went and saw it, I wasn't. I don't want to say that I was disappointed, mainly because I'd seen so many bad reviews. So I didn't walk out of the theater disappointed. I walked out and I said, okay, I enjoyed it enough that it warranted me going to the movie theater to see it. But I was like, it still wasn't really a great movie. I wanted it to be a great movie. Not necessarily Avengers great, but I wanted it to be great in the same vein as Guardians of the Galaxy, where I was like, oh my gosh, I was really entertained. This was funny. This was fun. This was enjoyable. This was action packed. You know, there were aspects of this movie and these characters. They made me like this character that I didn't even know about. You know, that's what I wanted to walk out of that movie saying. Hey, what's going on, Ed? What's happening, homie? I'm giving my little final thoughts about Suicide Squad. But again, I kind of walked out and I was like, this was marginally better than Batman versus Superman, which in my mind, Batman versus Superman was a debacle. It was an absolute train wreck. I hated that movie. I bought that movie at $15 just so I could see the extra 30 minutes or so to see whether that pulls together the storyline a little bit better, and essentially just so I could say I have it. I mean, what can I say? I'm a comic book nerd. That was a big movie. I gotta have most of the big movies out there. It was just bad, you know. Suicide Squad was better than Batman vs Superman, but and I liked it some, but it did somewhat disappoint me. You know, I wanted more for what it was. I loved the cast, but I don't think the story and the way that the lines were written and the lines that were given did any of the characters justice outside of Viola Davis. Viola Davis killed it. Everybody else, they played their character, but it was like the lines and the story that they gave each one of the other characters just it just didn't meet the bar that I had for each one of them, especially for Harley Quinn and Joker. I was like, they are the embodiment. I mean, like Margot Robbie, embodiment of Harley Quinn. Loved her, but they just didn't give her enough crazy in the movie. Not quite enough. Joker, they didn't give him enough crazy in the movie. They didn't give him enough quotables in the movie. They didn't give him enough anything in the movie. And it's kind of hard to do because he's really supposed to not even be that important in the movie. You know, it's like he's there, but he's not really there because he's involved thanks to Harley Quinn, but he's not a part of Suicide Squad. So it's kind of hard to write him into a storyline that he's not really supposed to be a part of. I'm like, if you want the Joker in the movie, my thought is you got to make Joker the actual villain that the Suicide Squad is going after or something like that in order for you to put the Joker in there and make it work. You know what I mean? It was the losers or push. The losers, yeah, I don't know. I wasn't too thrilled with the losers either. And yes, I want an R-rated Joker movie. Yes. I want them, what was the name of it? You know the movie that I want them to do, Ed? I want them, you know how they did The Killing Joke, and R-rated, whatever. I want them to do Death of the Family. That's what I want them to do, where he takes off his face and then puts it, then like staples it back on. Leto killed it for you. He didn't kill it for me. Like I was saying, I think he had a portrayal of the Joker, but there wasn't enough memorable in his portrayal of the Joker for him to kill it for me. You know, it's kind of like what I told the rest of the crew earlier. I was like, Jared Leto visually, he had the presence of the Joker. He had the look. He had his own special look for the Joker. But there wasn't a defining scene in the movie for me that was like ultimately memorable so I could say that is the Joker. You know what I mean? It was like they had a couple of scenes where he did this, he said this, but it was like nothing he said was memorable. You know, Heath Ledger's had all kinds of quotables. Jack Nicholson, all kinds of quotables. You had memorable scenes, all other kinds of stuff. In this movie, Jared Leto was just there. You know, I don't know if that. I mean, you know, I think they had opportunities to let him kill it, but he just didn't kill it for me. I was just waiting for that thing that was just like, oh, that's the Joker, and I didn't see it. There was nothing crazy. There was nothing demonstrative. There was nothing that truly defined how much of a sociopath to him. Let's see. You said go to YouTube. There's a vid of the original edit before W wanted it funnier because of Batman vs. Superman. See, I'm sure that there's all kinds of footage of the original edit, before all this other kind of stuff. But I mean that's what they released. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have to have extra. I shouldn't have to have an extra 30 minutes on the DVD to convince me that he is perfect or something like that, or that what he did was perfect. I was waiting, all the stuff they talked about, I was waiting for them to knock me out of my seat so I could just like, oh, Joker. Didn't happen for me. It just didn't happen for me. But we will see. I'm probably gonna go see it again because I'm a geek. Yes, I'm sure there are scenes where he physically abuses Harley, but that's dark. Like they said, that's R-rated. That's they couldn't put that in there. They wanted PG-13. They wanted Avengers. That's what they wanted. They wanted the villain version of the Avengers, and they came far short of that, unfortunately. There's so much that they should have done with Suicide Squad, but it just didn't meet the bar that I had for it. I was waiting for it to knock me off my feet. Just didn't. So, okay. I've said enough about Suicide Squad. It's just as Ed Johnson has shown here. He loved it, that kind of thing. There are a few other people that loved it. Acid Rain said that she liked it as well. A lot of other people didn't. It's one of those half and half movies, kind of like Man of Steel. Me personally, I loved it, but a lot of other people hated it. And I'm still kind of upset with the way DC is kind of pulling out this depressed Nirvana version of Superman, where he doesn't smile, he's not hopeful, he's not a beacon of hope. I mean, they say he's a beacon of hope, but every time you see him and he talks to him, he's like, it's like he's sighing every time he's talking in every scene. That's not Superman. That's not Superman. But whatever. So, that's what DC is doing. Honestly, people, I'm this close to not wanting to see Justice League. I saw the trailer. Me personally, I hate the trailer. I do not want, at this point, I don't want to see Justice League. There's nothing that I've seen in the trailer or in any of these movies that has shown me that I am anticipating and cannot wait for Justice League. Me personally, I just can't say that. The Batman movie, me personally, even though I hate Ben Affleck, I'm slightly interested in that just because I have a feeling that Jared Leto is going to be in that and that he'll be the main villain. If that's the case, I will go see Batman. If they don't have Jared Leto as the Joker in that, and they don't have the Joker in that and Harley Quinn in that, I'm not going to go see that either. I could care less about any other villain if it's not the Joker. They just need to break down and do Harley Quinn and Joker, just like Ed said, in a movie. Throw Batman in there, and just make it about a storyline about those three. That's just what they need to do before they do the Justice League. Honestly, they just need to do that before they do the Justice League. Wonder Woman. And I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying that, but for saying this. But I saw the Wonder Woman trailer, and the whole time I was watching the Wonder Woman trailer, the only thing that I saw was the first Captain Avenger movie. The first Captain America movie. Captain America, the First Avenger. That's all I saw, simply. And in part, that's because all you see is, World War One, Two? One of the ding dang world wars. I don't even remember which is bad for me. I should know. World War II, Nazis. World War One was everything else, right? Was that right? Yeah, that's right. Goodness, whatever. That's all I saw when I saw that movie. I was like, goodness, this is like freaking Captain America, only with Wonder Woman in the role, and that's all I saw. I was like, she's selling me more so in terms of looking and feeling like she can be a great Wonder Woman because she's pulling off the humor here and there or whatever. But I don't know. Something about that trailer does not spell an interesting movie for me. It spells a more interesting Wonder Woman, but it doesn't spell a good movie for me. It does not look like a good movie to me. It looks like there's scenes in there where I will love the action because she looks like looks like she is Wonder Woman. Period. But as we saw with Batman vs. Superman, so-called action in these DC movies will be short-lived and will not be good enough to get through all the other crap you have to see before it. So I'm not hopeful for Wonder Woman, not hopeful for Justice League, not really hopeful for Batman, and I was a little bit too hopeful for Suicide Squad and got disappointed by that. And all I can do after seeing Suicide Squad is say I want an R-rated Joker Harley Quinn movie. I shouldn't, it's like I can do away with Suicide Squad, and if they had just done Harley Quinn and Joker, then I'd be happy. And I shouldn't have to say that after watching the movie. You know what I mean? I should be like, oh, I love Suicide Squad. But I didn't. Anyways, let me move on. The other elephant in the room for this past week in the world of gamers and geeks has been the game No Man's Sky. So I'll put that to the chat room. So if there's anyone in the chat room, I'd love to hear your opinions on what you've read about the game, as well as what you may have heard, or if you've played the game. Let me go ahead and get this Skype out of here because I don't think Dirty Amato is going to be in here. I'm just going to get that out of the way for now. Let me do that. Shaboopy. Put more of my beautiful mug up in this piece. Oh, it's Bunny. It's Bunny. It's Bunny. So yeah, like I was saying, No Man's Sky. So for those of you who don't know, let me give you the regular explanation for what No Man's Sky is. We'll go to the website and see if we can show what they say No Man's Sky is about and what it is. Okay? No Man's Sky. On their webpage, they say it's a game about exploration and survival in an infinite procedurally generated galaxy. Point blank, that's what they call it, right? So everybody that was interested in the game has seen all kinds of trailers. They've seen all kinds of things in E3 for the past 2 years about this game, and it got people open because it's a space game. You get to explore space. There's a lot of planets. They basically say there's an infinite number of planets, an infinite number of everything, and that every planet will be different, all this other kind of stuff. So they get you wide open and say, oh, space exploration, yay, right? So you watch all these videos, you see like the main ship that everyone's flying around in looks almost like a generic X-Wing fighter and all this other kind of stuff. You see them doing combat in space. You see them doing combat for short amounts of time when they're exploring on the ground. You're seeing combat against other ships in space, capital ships flying around, shooting them. They're shooting at other people, all kinds of stuff, right? So you're like, oh my gosh, this is like Wing Commander without the military, right? So I've had this game since it was released, and the short answer for what this game is almost like saying, hey, your kids loved Minecraft. Well, we've got a game for the adults. It's called No Man's Sky. So instead of mining and doing all that kind of stuff for kids, where you're creating stuff, we've got one for adults where you mine and do all this stuff and you explore. You are a discoverer. You are a what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like Oregon Trail, and well, I just said it, an explorer, right? You're supposed to go to planets. You get to name the planets. You get to name the galaxies that you land on. You get to name every rock, plant, and what else? Animal that you discover on every planet. You upload them to some server in the sky or whatever. You don't even know what you're uploading it to. You just know you get money for doing it, so you do it. And at this point, that's kind of all it is, right? And the bad thing about it is that can be very uneventful and boring. Exploration is not an exciting thing. The only time exploration is truly exciting is kind of in the same vein as, say, a Tomb Raider, where you're going around in a land and you see ruins and you explore the ruins and say, oh, this ancient civilization had this, that, and the third, these artifacts, these traps, these killer apes, these killer, whatever beasts are around protecting this relic and all this other kind of stuff. That is when exploration and archaeology become exciting. Now, when you get into being a scientist is not exciting unless you are a scientist, right? I mean, this game is breaking things down to the elements. You're finding carbon, you're finding silicates, isotopes, aluminum, gold, iron, and you're basically using it to make little pieces of tech that attach to the stuff that you already have that make them slightly stronger or do a little bit different. But you're wondering, to what end? This game has no tutorial. It probably has a storyline, but it doesn't really explain the storyline to you. You basically just have you've got something that comes on your screen that tells you objectives, but it doesn't tell you what why you're doing those objectives, right? So, for instance, and you can see some of my gameplay online. I wrote an article that kind of has a little bit of my gameplay attached to it, just to give you an idea of what it was. But if you can't find it, I will go in and I'll probably have to expand. It's on my blog. On my blog, bjbrownjr.com, on a blogger feed. It's called The Adventures of Bunny 3000 or whatever. I'll probably write another article or whatever to kind of give my impressions / review of the game for Heed magazine a bit later. But basically all I did in that first gameplay session was I repaired my ship, I mined stuff, I discovered a whole bunch of animals and stuff. I leapt off into space. I got on a ship, tried to buy a ship, couldn't do that, and then I basically stopped. I know that doesn't sound very eventful, but that's all that happened. The most exciting thing was me discovering new elements. I was like, oh, what is this? Oh, I can sell it. Yay. Or discovering new technology for me to build, but I didn't know why I was building or if I'd need it or why I needed the new technology, because there wasn't anything that was challenging me to actually need that new technology. Really, the only thing that you really are hard pressed for in this game is inventory slots, which in a way kind of doesn't make sense. You've got a backpack that's supposed to have inventory, that's supposed to have all these space for all these elements that you're mining, right? And then you can send those elements or whatever to your ship for storage. You get the right ship, you'll have plenty of space for storage. But the problem is not only do you have to have it they have inventory slots, mind you, and one small piece like a chip or whatever can take up the same whole inventory slot as like a whole crate full of carbon or something like that, right? Which in my mind still doesn't make any sense, but whatever, that's something else. So that's like the big thing that you're really competing against in this game: inventory space. Because you want to mine so many different things, but you can't because you don't have the inventory space to do so, which is kind of counterintuitive for exploration. You're not going to want to explore and find precious resources or whatever if you don't have the space for it, because then you're mining, and then you can only mine for so long and discover stuff for so long before you have to take said resource away or send it away or sell it so that you have room to take advantage of whatever it is you find. So you're having to deal too much with inventory in this game at this point. So, Bunny, why is it you want or have played No Man's Sky? I will say this about No Man's Sky: I see potential in it. I really see that this groundwork that they've laid in terms of having all of these procedurally generated planets, they have the potential to have a lot of things that they can do. The outposts and trading centers and monoliths and stuff that they have there now that are on the surface of every planet that you go to, it's okay. They all look the same, right? It's like the same race of aliens made all of these things, and they put them on all these different planets, which you're supposedly discovering, that's the thing that I don't get. You're discovering all this stuff for the first time, yet everything that you're discovering was put there by some other alien race, right? Which has little ships flying in and out of every planet that you go to that you're so-called discovering. That's whatever. But I see that there's going to be a lot of updates to this game. The team is very small, so it's like one of those things where you have to have faith in the developer to support the game for quite some time. It sounds like that's going to be the case. And that's a hard way to sell a game. To say, hey, look at this amazing, unlimited sandbox that we've given you guys to play in. We haven't quite done too well with filling it with stuff for you to do, aside from mining. But we've provided this great randomized sandbox that'll keep you busy for the rest of your life, if you want to. And that's the problem. They haven't given you a real great reason to do all this exploration. I mean, the only thing that you find or mine in this stuff is so that you can get more credits and get more inventory space with a bigger ship. And you'll need that bigger ship with inventory space so that you can have more fuel, so that you can get to the center of the galaxy. And I'm like, okay, why am I going to the center of the galaxy? And the only reason why I even knew that you're going to the center of the galaxy is because they said somebody on an article, they said somebody quote unquote beat the game in like 80 hours and got to the center of the galaxy in like 80 hours. And I'm sitting here like, okay, so why is he going to the center of the galaxy? And why is that the end of the game when you go to the center of the galaxy? What's at the center of the galaxy? None of that's explained. No, there's nothing, no storyline that tells you that there's something big and shiny in the center of the galaxy. None of that. For all I know, there could be a big black hole in the center of the galaxy that swallows up everything. It'd be different if they set it up like Master of Orion, where they're like, yo, there's this old ancient race that's in No Man's Sky that has the best and greatest technology known to man that allows you to do XYZ or whatever, and you're on a race against all these other species and aliens or whatever to find it first, because if you don't, it'll wipe out your home planet. Dude, all they had to do was tell me that, and it'd be on like Donkey Kong. I'd be blowing up every ship I saw in the sky. I'd be getting all kinds of stuff and being like, yo, I've got to find this before the other alien races do. They don't give you any sense of urgency in this game. And that's what you need in order for a game to be appealing, in my opinion, to the masses. Instead, this has turned out to be one of those kind of games where it's like, it's cute, it's nice, it's cool, but I'm going to go over here and I'm going to play Division because I need to go blow some stuff up and shoot some stuff. Because, again, the combat in this game is, I want to say, anywhere from simplistic to frustrating. And that's not a good range to be in. You know, simplistic or frustrating. You don't want to be there. And that's kind of what it is. There's not really anything too skill-based or difficult or appealing even in the combat in No Man's Sky. That just isn't. Honestly, I haven't even gotten into the combat in space. There's not really anything that shows me that I'd be particularly interested in jumping into a space battle in No Man's Sky, because there's no incentive right now aside from being a space pirate and just taking resources. But why am I taking the resources? Can I make my own ship? No. You can buy another ship, but you can't create your ship. But as I've read, that could come in the future. Good thing it's not paid DLC. You know what I mean? So again, No Man's Sky, it's a niche game. It seems like it's going to be one of those games where if you give it 6 to 9 months, it will be the actual final game that has a lot of interesting content and storyline and story and whatever that the game that we're playing now should actually have. And I don't know if that's a good space to be in. So you're going to see some people ragging on No Man's Sky for quite some time. And trust me, I was discussing with Dirty Helmato whether or not he liked the game. And he was like, he is a good maybe 4 hours away from giving the game back. He's really that close. I talked to him about it. He doesn't hate the game. He just thinks it's boring right now. And it kind of is. You know what I mean? It kind of, in my opinion, No Man's Sky kind of is a boring game. It's relaxing and chill. And in my opinion, the only first person, I don't want my first person shooters to be relaxing and chill. Unless it's absolutely gorgeous. And I have a hard time saying that. You know, No Man's Sky is kind of cartoony. It's not necessarily gorgeous. You know, if No Man's Sky, the graphics were a little bit more realistic and less cartoony, possibly I think it would get a little bit better press. But it's not there. It's kind of on this weird plateau, this weird level of being a good-looking game that's kind of cartoony in terms of the way that the art style is. So, you know, it's kind of in a weird space. It looks good. Good. You know, it doesn't look Uncharted, you know, Uncharted 4 kind of great quality or whatever. It's definitely nowhere near that. So, yeah, I've heard some people say that it's like StarCraft, which is an old PC game that kind of dealt with you know, mining for resources, getting technology and all that other kind of stuff. But at least that game had aliens that were after you or that were hostile, you know, and you felt like you were getting it to build up your ship. You needed to upgrade your ship, and you felt like you had enough room on your ship to do that, and that, you know, you felt like it was giving you enough nuggets, you know, enough bonuses or awards or rewards for the time that you were putting into it, you know. So No Man's Sky, it needs more balance for its reward system within the game, because right now, as I said with Dirty Helmet, it's still a bit on the you know, a bit on the boring side, unfortunately. But, you know, that's kind of what No Man's Sky is. And we will see what it becomes. I still have faith in it. I think it will become a more exciting game. And I mean, you know, I've only played maybe barely 10 hours of it. So that might be part of it also. Maybe after I find more ships and explore a bit more places and find some more places that have more sentinels that attack me more, or have aliens that attack me more, or maybe they'll have an update that'll have more, you know, pirates that attack me more, and I don't know. There just needs to be more. There needs to be more drama, more action, more urgency, more rewards, more building. You know, give me more stuff to build. You know, maybe I want something that's not a multi-tool. Maybe I don't want a multi-tool. Maybe I just want an armed rocket launcher or something like that. You know, give me more tech that'll help me be a space pirate if I don't want to be an explorer. How about that? No Man's Sky. Maybe I want to be a space pirate. Why don't you say No Man's Sky Space Pirate Edition? And give me all the tools and weaponry I can so I can destroy every living thing I see. How about that? They said that can be a path that you choose, right? So, give me that capability. I don't know if I don't know if that's going to be it. So, we will see. We will see. No Man's Sky. That's how that is. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I do think that Dirty Helmato is pretty much out of it. I don't think he's going to make it. So probably what I'm going to do to make up the rest of the time, we're going to take a little break. And what I'll do is I'll reset. And we will come back and maybe we'll play a bit of... Will we play some No Man's Sky? I don't know if I have the setup for it right now. I don't want to break out all that stuff. Because, yeah, it does get a bit dry, you know, playing No Man's Sky. How about this? We will, instead of doing that, let me speak to the Division's DLC a little bit more. Because I was playing that during the pre-show. And then we'll go and maybe we'll do a bit of MechWarrior Online or something like that to fill in the spaces. So, the Division. All of you Xbox One players out there who have the Division have probably had the new DLC for the Division. Let me see if I can remember what it was called. The Division DLC. Underground. Yes. That is what it's called. I have not had a pleasant experience with this new DLC. You know, and unfortunately that occurs from time to time on games. You'll have... Holy cow, that's not what I wanted. Okay, sorry about that. You know, occasionally you'll have problems like that whenever you have DLC in games. Like, some of the content just will not be appealing and will not be fun. Unfortunately, Underground is one of those. So, if you know the Division, then you know, and you've played the Division, then you know that they kind of have a severe grinding issue in this game for loot and gear and stuff like that, right? So they've got the main storyline game, which is supposed to prepare you supposedly for everything else, right? The main storyline game gives you 30 levels, and I don't know how many hours of content that is, but essentially you got 30 levels until you unlock all of the abilities and all the other kind of stuff. It's basically the tutorial for teaching you how to use and use and acquire all of the tools, all of the abilities, all of the powers and guns and gear, mods, and so forth in this game. And it does a good job of doing that, right? So after you deal with that main part of the game, another portion of the game is the player versus player portion of the game, which is called not the danger zone, the red zone, the dead zone, whatever it's called. Dead zone, I think it's called, right? And in that zone, you can go in there with a crew, but any other crew you see out there They can either help you or they can harm you and go rogue, as they call it. And they will basically attack you, take your stuff, get experience for taking you down, and they'll also steal your gear that you've acquired in there. Because in the Dark Zone, the gear that you find in there, you have to extract most of the gear. And if you don't extract it from a helicopter that you call in, that basically notifies everybody on the map, then you don't get those rewards. So it's a high risk, high reward kind of system. So it's very, very tense, and I love that portion of the game, right? But in the Dark Zone, they also have another leveling system. So you have to go up levels in the Dark Zone, not only to be able to go to different areas of the Dark Zone and be able to stay alive in those areas, but to be able to purchase better equipment. So you have to be a certain level in the Dark Zone, which is completely different from your level outside the Dark Zone, which has absolutely nothing to do with your gear zone, with your gear score, which was a part of an update that they did not too long ago. And it just kind of infuriates you, because if you're a person who spent most of their time outside of the Dark Zone getting up levels and gear and stuff like that, when you first go into the Dark Zone, you're not going to be high enough level to get any other kind of gear. Oh, stop it. You know what I mean? So that's the big problem. You're sitting around and I gotta get this thing off of my screen before it goes once again. There we go. The problem is getting gear in this game at some point in time gets so hard and becomes such a chore and such a grind that you feel like it's taking you days before you find better gear, rather than a few hours, which is usually the case in something like a Diablo or something like that, right? The difficulty levels of certain missions are not very are not fair in terms of the way they balance them. It's like you can go play the hard version of one of the missions or something like that, breeze through it with your crew, and then all of a sudden do the challenging version of the same mission and not even be able to get past the first part. It is just too much of a difficulty jump, and they haven't worked out that balance quite yet. So enough of discussing the leveling system. Most of you guys know about it. The difficulty I have with this DLC is it's called the Underground. They added a new section inside of the your base that has a few more vendors that goes downstairs, because the Underground is supposed to be a quote-unquote procedurally generated area where every mission is quote-unquote different, and you go into these mission areas, and the variability supposedly is supposed to be a part of the appeal, and it's supposed to be more difficult than above the ground, where you have use of all of not only your mini map but other things. So it's like every however many levels that you go, there are certain things that you're used to having that you won't have. Like maybe you won't have your target reticle, or you won't have the mini map, or you won't have use of your talents or abilities or something like that. They throw all these monkey wrenches in your plan to supposedly make it more difficult, and it is. I give them that much. It's a little bit harder, but the problem is that in the Underground they give you yet another area that you have to level up. So you've got your regular story-based levels, you've got your Dark Zone levels, you've got your Underground levels, and of course you can't buy certain gear in the Underground until you have a certain Underground level. And it's like there's so many ding-dang levels, and then on top of that you've got your gear score. And your gear score is based off of your gear, the power level of all of your gear, and the average of all of it that you have that's equipped. And the big problem I have with that is sometimes the gear, because of all the little gear sets that you have, the gear that you really want to use, that's your strongest gear, supposedly, that has the highest gear score, is weaker or reacts weaker to the rest of your gear than something that's, a good 30 to 40 gear score levels lower. And it's difficult because it's like you've got, this 268 backpack that's awesome, that has a lot more armor on it, drops your toughness or your health stat down so low that, one shot from anything on the difficult things and you're dead. So it's like you have to wait until you find something else that boosts, either something else that boosts your stamina in another one of the other gear areas, or you basically just have to sit on it and be like, I can't use it. What I need is a different way that you can trade, possibly, your gear, or that you can say, hey, I've got all this gear that I want to use but I can't use, but I want to take like these 3 pieces, merge these 3 pieces, and see what other randomized, more powerful piece that it can provide me. Something like that. But of course, I doubt that Ubisoft's going to do something like that in Division. But either way, the Underground as a DLC doesn't do it for me. I mean, it seems as if the extra area, this extra area could have been better served as another incursion or whatever it's called, right? They added a new incursion, they added these so-called new missions, they added new gear sets, which they do with every update. They added apparently 2 new weapon classes, which I haven't really made use of, that don't seem that impressive to me as of yet. I think they have like a submachine gun and maybe assault rifles that are have a burst mode or something like that, which is fine. Who cares? It doesn't give you that much of an advantage or change the game that much. It pisses me off. It's not that much of an expansion. There's not that much of a new storyline to it. There's not that much content within it that makes it worth it. It doesn't add that much more to the game that makes it interesting. It's boring, and it just seems like it's tacked on. It seems like this was an update that they just decided, rather than giving this to them for free, let's make them pay for it. It just does not, it's not satisfactory to me. I don't like it. I'm not happy with it. I don't want to level up again. I mean, I'm only level 50 something in the Dark Zone, and I think there's people that are like level 90 something in the Dark Zone, and it takes forever to go up levels once you're in a certain level in the Dark Zone, especially with how hard it is and how many people are running around in there trying to kill you, that are higher level than you, have a higher gear score than you. It's just ridiculous. And especially when you die in the Dark Zone, you lose experience. So it's so frustrating in the Dark Zone. I mean, at least in the Underground, when you go up levels, you're not going to lose any experience. I mean, that's the least that they can do. I'm like, if you're going to add this DLC, add like another area, like another Dark Zone area or something like that, that's more appealing, that has some different changes or something like that, with some uber powerful gear that you can get or whatever. But it's just not good. I don't like it. Supposedly there's supposed to be another expansion, from what I heard, called Survival, which it is said, and this is from an article I'm reading from, I don't even know what this website is, but I'm going to read it to you. It says, Survival DLC will make the weather the main adversary of the players. That doesn't sound interesting. In critical situations such as living in an unfavorable environment, people can be forced to act harshly as well. Besides challenging weather, players will also need to deal with lack of supplies. That sounds god-awful. Who cares about that? You're in a game where you're running around shooting people and trying to get loot. It's just... the weather, really? What, you're gonna make the weather change so much in the Dark Zone that instead of people stealing all my gear, it's just gonna be a tornado that steals all my gear or something, or a flood? Ugh, that does not sound interesting at all. So I, at this point, am pissed off because the extra money that I spent for this DLC, I don't even remember how long ago it was. But, you know, I was anticipating me just loving the Division so much that the DLC was going to make it so much more enjoyable. And so far, it has dropped the ball. I don't see this new DLC doing so either. Supposedly, it's going to have new tweaks and new features. It better be, because, you know, this month is already here. So, you know, I'm guessing, what is it, September? Between September or the beginning of October, we'll probably see the new DLC drop on the Xbox One. And we will see what it is. And hopefully it's better than this, because I do not like it. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to try to take all this and reset so that we can do a bit of MechWarrior Online. Take my glass off, get in the glare. We're gonna do a bit of MechWarrior Online a little bit, so I want you guys to stay tuned, and we are going to be right back. Deuces. Oh, and before I go, I want to put this plug in there and say that you can follow all of us, especially the Grim Freaker, who's not here with us, and Dirty Hell Motto, on all of our Twitch channels. Go on to heedmag.com, which is HEEDMAG.com, and you'll see Geekswagg. You'll have all of our show archives there, which basically tie into here, the Ladies of the Round Table channel, and all the fresh LORT Nation crew that are here. And you'll see our show archives in the past broadcasts and highlights here on the Ladies of the Round Table channel or on the heedmag.com website. And all of our posts are archived posts for all the shows that we have on HeedMag are also they basically are embedded versions of the past broadcasts from here on Ladies of the Round Table. So find all of us on Twitch so you can see us all play games like MechWarrior Online, DC Universe Online, No Man's Sky, The Division. I play, or Helmato plays Call of Duty, Dirty Helmet plays Call of Duty, Blops 3. Grim Freaker, she's all about Monster Hunter and Final Fantasy and some of the more interesting other games that get some, you know, that have some buzz about them. She's played some really interesting games. You should check out her past broadcasts as well. Me myself, I tend to stick to a lot of the, not necessarily the competitive shooters or whatever, but I've got kind of a wide-ranging game taste. I kind of stick with MechWarrior Online. There's a new game called Dreadnought that kind of reminds me of World of Warships, only in space. I'm hoping I can get into playing that a bit more soon. I should be playing it now because I did promise people that I was going to do a bit more gameplay of that game since I did actually purchase the Founders Pack for it. But I've put money into MechWarrior Online, so I'm doing the grind on that. And that's what we're going to do in a bit. Also, I do a lot of the Division. I do a lot of... I try to do some indie games here and there, so, you know, stay tuned for some of those. You'll see some of those. Hoping I can get back into doing my videos a little bit more so than usual, just to do reviews of stuff like State of Decay, another game I absolutely adore, as well as like the Wars of Orochi or the Dynasty Warriors type games. I love those games. I typically do reviews for those, but I haven't been as of late, and I feel horrible about that. So I've got to get back into doing my video reviews, and hopefully I can get into that and do that more so for you guys. So I'm gonna sign off, and then we're gonna come right back and have a bit of MechWarrior Online gameplay. So thank you guys for chilling with me and sticking in here with me as we discussed Suicide Squad, No Man's Sky, and some other stuff. So definitely check us out and give us some feedback. We'd love to hear it. All right. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Bunny 3000 OUT.